See, we are in accounts payable. So in accounts payable, in the previous class, we have created the GL account, inventory of raw material account. Now, creation of sundry creditors account as a reconciliation account. So first I will explain what is the concept of reconciliation account. Then we will see. Let us take one example. Just 1 second. See, let us assume we have two vendors, vendor X and vendor Y. So you purchased material from vendor X for $1,000. Then that is posted to credit side of vendor X. Similarly, you paid $500 to X out of 1,000 invoice amount. So that is posted to debit side of vendor X. Similarly, we have vendor Y. So from vendor Y, we purchased material on an invoice for $10,000, out of which you paid only $5,000. So we have the two vendors. In every vendor account, we have only one purchase transaction, one payment transaction. So with this situation, I want to know what is the total amount of payables by your company as of now. $5,500 you have to pay to all the vendors. So how could you say that you have to pay $5,500? Because for vendor X, you have to still pay 500, and for the vendor Y, you have to still pay 5,000. Means we have balanced every vendor account, right? Then we have added the balances of individual vendor accounts. Now let us extend this example to the reality, to the real time. You have 1,000 vendors. In your client company, 1,000 vendors are there. Then your accounting year has started from 1st January 2017. So till now, there might have been posted hundreds of invoices and hundreds of full payments and part payments in every vendor account. Means in every vendor account, there might have been hundreds of debits and credits. With that situation, I want to know what is the total amount of payables as of now. For that, what we have to do, you have to go on balancing every individual vendor account, and balancing every individual vendor account of $1,000 takes a lot of time, because it contains a number of debits and credits every vendor account, right? So balancing all the 1,000 vendor accounts and adding them is a very difficult task, right? And it takes minimum to minimum 1 week. Now, your accounts officer, he wants to know what is the total amount of payables immediately, because he wants to take on some financial decision for which he needs the total amount of payables. Clear? What is the solution? For that, we use the concept of reconciliation account. So here we maintain one GL account in the general ledger. We maintain one GL account in the general ledger with the name, for example, it's only an example name, sundry creditors raw material account. So this account is maintained in the general ledger, and these vendor accounts are maintained in the accounts payable. Now we make some settings. Please remember, we make some settings so that when we post any purchase transaction or payment transaction or purchase return transaction in the individual vendor accounts, that transaction is automatically posted into the sundry creditors reconciliation account in the general ledger. We make some settings so that when we post any transaction in the individual vendor accounts, that transaction is also automatically, please remember, automatically posted to sundry creditors reconciliation account, which is maintained in the general ledger. Now, it's a GL account in the general ledger, right? If you go to FS10N, it will display the balance. That is the concept of reconciliation account. Why it is called reconciliation account? Because the sum of the balances of individual vendor accounts should be equal to the balance displayed in the sundry creditors account. In some countries it is called sundry creditors account, right? In some countries it is called total payables account, like that. Clear? That's why this is called reconciliation account. So when we post the transaction in the individual vendor account, this reconciliation account is automatically updated. For that, we need to do some settings. What are those settings? I will tell you. Now, here, when we post the transaction by raw material in the vendor X, it is automatically posted here. When we post the purchase in Y account, it is also automatically posted. Here, these transactions are posted by the user in the accounts payable in the individual vendor accounts. But this reconciliation account is automatically updated. When you post the payment to vendor X, it is also automatically posted in sundry creditors. When you post the payment to vendor Y, it is also automatically posted to vendor Y. So this is the concept of reconciliation account. And one more thing, at the time of preparing balance sheet, from the accounts payable side, we have to display sundry creditors or total payables on the liability side of the balance sheet. So for that purpose, the system will take the figure from this account only. Here, accounts payable is called subsidiary ledger. So in the subsidiary ledger, you maintain the details of the postings. And the summary of these details of the postings should be maintained in the general ledger. Why? Because the total information required to prepare your P&L account and balance sheet is taken from general ledger accounting only. That's why these subsidiary ledgers are integrated with the general ledger through reconciliation account. Very, very important point. The subsidiary ledgers are integrated with the general ledger through reconciliation accounts. So here, accounts payable, account receivable, asset accounting, they are called subsidiary ledgers. General ledger is called main ledger. I hope it's clear for everybody. Now, here, I don't have the access to individual vendor accounts as a user. So I have the access to vendor accounts, sundry creditors reconciliation account. I have the access to sundry creditors reconciliation account in the general ledger. Now I display the line items in the sundry creditors reconciliation account. Then I see that buy raw material 1000, buy raw material 10,000. Then I can see that to cash 500, to cash 5,000. So when I see that buy raw material of 1000, I can understand it is a purchase of materials, but from whom? Similarly, when I see buy raw material 10,000, I can understand we purchased material worth of 10,000, but from whom? That information also should be available there. It is the user requirement. So whenever I see buy raw material, I should be able to understand from whom that raw material is purchased. And when I see to cash 500, I should be able to see that from to whom you have paid that amount. Are you getting my point? So here in the sundry creditors reconciliation account, each line item is to be maintained according to vendor number. Each line item is to be displayed according to vendor number. Means the business transactions are to be organized in the vendor account. The business transactions are to be organized in the sundry creditors reconciliation account on the basis of vendor number. That is called sort key. The criteria according to which the business transactions are organized in the GL account are called sort key. So till now we have been using the sort key 001 for every GL account. That is posting date. But for the sundry creditors raw material reconciliation account, The short key should be vendor number, which means 012. And this reconciliation account is always updated automatically only. You cannot post manually into the reconciliation account. You cannot post manually means you cannot use that account for posting in F-02. System will not allow you. But in order to enable the system to update the sundry creditors account automatically, we need to do some settings. What are those settings? I will show you now. This is the concept of no. Sundry creditors raw material is a liability, no? Chandrasekhar. Sundry creditors is a liability. It appears on the liability side of the balance sheet. No, this is the sundry creditors for raw materials. These are the vendors to
Okay,
whom
sir.
you have to pay total towards purchase of raw material. Similarly, you may
Okay.
have sundry creditors for expenses. You have to
Okay.
pay something to your chartered accountants. You have to pay something to your tax consultants, like that. But the
Okay.
inventory of raw material account is an asset account.
Inventory, then where is the corresponding entry will be there, sir? Suppose if I purchases account data to X account on
Correct.
credit
Yeah,
purchases.
yeah,
Then I need to put one entry in the raw material purchase also, no?
yeah.
Raw material stock account.
Yes. I will show you.
Where is that? Okay, sir. Sorry,
It
sorry.
was not covered. No problem. I will show you. So here, reconciliation account. So this is for the interview purpose. This notes is for your interview purpose. It is the control account maintained in the general ledger to post all the business transactions affected in the sub-ledger accounts, that is vendor accounts. I told you, no, accounts payable, accounts receivable, asset accounts, they are called subsidiary ledgers. And each vendor account is called subledger account. Each customer account is called subledger account. Each asset account is called subledger account. It is used to know the total amount of the vendors payable by the company at any point of time. And the figure to be represented in the balance sheet is taken from this account. And we cannot post direct into these accounts. And one more thing, we can maintain any number of reconciliation accounts based upon your business requirement. Suppose, for example, you have to display the total sundry creditors for raw material separately in the balance sheet. And you have to display the total sundry creditors for expenses or for services separately in the balance sheet. You have to display the total amount payable to all the vendors from whom we are purchasing stores and spares separately. And we have to display the total legal dues separately. In that case, for each one requirement, you maintain one reconciliation account. Like what? Sundry creditors for raw material account, one reconciliation account. Sundry creditors for expenses, one reconciliation account. Sundry creditors for um, legal vendors, one reconciliation account. Sundry creditors for stores and spares, one reconciliation account. Like that, based on the business requirement, I'm telling you. It's not the rule. But generally, we go with only one reconciliation account, sundry creditors account or total payables account. That GL account we are going to create now. See, creation of sundry creditors account as reconciliation account. So check up the list of account groups and identify the account group under which we have to create this GL account master and choose the GL account number, transaction code OBD4. While logging into the system, I think it seems it is taking a little bit more time. From day after tomorrow, if possible, I will try to take 2 hours from day after tomorrow, if possible, right? See, we have to check the account group OBD4. Gadi, yes, I will have to create your user ID and password because it's the EHP7 new server. So I have to create your user ID and password. So I'm taking you to account groups. I hope it's okay for you if I take 2 hours a day. Till next 2-3 days. Not every day. Because I want to cover the missed time. See here. Chart of accounts 3366. See, we have an account group. See, sundry creditors account is to be created under current liabilities and provisions, right? So this account is to be created under this account group, and the defined number range is 1,500,000 to 1,599,000. So just like that, I'm going to take 1,505. So I will take 2 hours class from day after tomorrow if it is okay for everybody. Okay. Even if it is not okay, even for a single person, I will try to make it over on weekend. Okay. Don't worry about it. I don't take the 2 hours even at the inconvenience of even a single person in the class. See, I just want to take 1,505. Because my health is disturbed unexpectedly, so it's out of my control. That's the reason why, by somehow, I want to make over that missed time. FS double G. GL account is equal to 1,505. Company code 3366. Go to menu GL account create. The account group is current liabilities and provisions. The account group is current liabilities and provisions. Select balance sheet account. Short text is equal to sundry creditors account. Or total payables account. In India, we call it as sundry creditors. I think in US it is called total payables account. Go to control data tab. Account currency USD. Now, it's very, very important that we should not select only balances in local currency for reconciliation accounts. It's a system requirement. We should not select only balances in local currency for reconciliation accounts. Very, very important. It's a system mandatory requirement. Then, how the system understands that this is the reconciliation account for vendors? Are you getting my point? We are just creating the GL account in FS00 normally. Then how the system understands that this is the reconciliation account for vendors? That is setting is done here. Reconciliation account for account type vendors. This first setting we do. This is the reconciliation account. Reconciliation account for account type. Select vendors. Select line item display. Sort key. 012. Sort key 012. Vendor number. If you press on F4, 012 stands for vendor number. So till now we have been using 001, which stands for posting date. I will show you its effect in the sundry creditors account after posting the transactions. See, 012 vendor number. Go to create bank interest tab. Field status group G067. Always for reconciliation accounts, the field status group is G067, which was already defined in the system. See here, G067 reconciliation accounts. Click on save. So while defining this GL account, you defined that this is the reconciliation account for account type vendors. Now see the next step. Creation of vendor master record. So vendor master record is nothing but vendor account. So you have to maintain the master record for every vendor. Transaction code XK01. Company code is equal to 3366. Account group 3366. Means here, if you are creating the master record for the vendor from whom you are purchasing raw materials, we enter the account group 3366. Suppose if you are creating the master record for your chartered accountants or cost accountants or management consultants, their master records are to be created under the account group vendors for expenses. In that case, you enter 336A, nothing else. Just like that, you have created the rent account in the administration cost group, wages account in the manufacturing cost group, no? Like that. So here I am using account group 3366. Means he is the vendor from whom we are purchasing raw materials. Click on it. Title is equal to company. Title is equal to company. Name is equal to Ratna Enterprises. It is the name of the vendor. Ratna Enterprises Limited. Now look at the screen, please. This is called general data segment. So here you maintain the address of the vendor, his street name, house number, postal code, city. So you can maintain the address of the vendor here. Country is equal to US. Country is equal to US. So if the address of the vendor is more large, then click on more fields button. So it's a little slow, it seems. See, here you can enter the total address of the vendor. Okay. Then you can maintain the post box number of vendor, postal code of vendor, and you can maintain the communication information of the vendor, his telephone number, his extension number, mobile number, fax number, his extension number, email, his email address, standard data communication. So like that, in the real time, we have to maintain all this information. If you remember, these are the fields in the general data segment under the field status. So here we don't have all this information. That's why I told you to enter name and country only. Okay, in the material. Then click on next skin button 3 times. Click on next skin button thrice. Here in the training class only, we click on this next skin button 3 times. For example, if you click on next skin button first time, see here, you can maintain the tax information of the vendor mostly, right? For example, customer number, then VAT registration number, what is the type of business of vendor, whether he is a trader, whether he is a manufacturer, whether he is a consignment agent. Like that, we can maintain the type of business of the vendor, VAT registration number, what is the type of industry he is having, right? And all this tax information number can be maintained here. And date of birth. Suppose you are maintaining a master record for your statutory auditor, then we'll have date of birth, right? Then you can also maintain his sex, whether he's a male or is she, whether she is a, sorry, whether it's a male or female, your chartered accountant. So like that, place of birth, what is the profession of your third party? Like that, all this information you can maintain here in the first screen. But here we don't have all this information. That's why I told you to skip this screen. Then click on next screen button second time. Now here you can maintain the bank information of the vendor. See, country of the vendor, bank key. What is bank key? I will explain elaboratedly bank key in the next topic, but for the time being, bank key is nothing but your IFSC code or NEFT code or routing number. In US it is called routing number, in India it is called IFSC code. So that routing number or IFSC code can be entered here. Bank account, then account holder name. Here we enter the bank account number. Here we enter the account holder name. So all this information we can enter here. And this information is necessary to make the payments to vendors through bank transfers. So here we don't have all this information. That's why I told you to skip in our material. Then click on third time. Next screen, third time. GST, actually some patches have been released regarding GST. Some patches have been released by SAP. These patches are not installed in this particular server. Gadi. Now, here we can maintain the contact persons of the vendor. Suppose vendor is Tata Consultancy Services Limited. Your vendor is Tata Consultancy Services Limited. So you cannot directly talk to the director of Tata Consultancy Services. There will be some manager or HR manager or somebody else with whom you have to contact. So that name can be maintained here. Clear? So here you do one thing. Click on next screen button, not thrice, 4 times. Because GST is a total different functionality, right? So SAP has released some different patches for that. And these patches are to be installed by the basis consultants. Then only we can process the GST transactions. In our present server, it's not possible to process the GST transactions. But I will send you the material along with the screenshots for GST. Don't worry about it. Now, look at the screen. After clicking on next screen button 4 times, you come to this screen. Look at the screen, please. Reconciliation account is mandatory. Because if you remember, while creating the vendor account group 3366, we have selected reconciliation account as required entry, right? So it's mandatory field here. This is how the field status for vendor master records is controlled by vendor account groups. So reconciliation account is 1,05,005. Now, in the vendor account Ratna Enterprises Limited, we have assigned reconciliation account 1,05,005. So from now onwards, when you post any purchase transaction or payment transaction or any purchase return transaction, for that matter, if you post any transaction in the Ratna Enterprises Limited vendor account, your reconciliation account in the general ledger is automatically updated. These are the two settings. What is the first setting? At the time of creating the reconciliation account, you specified that it's a reconciliation account for account type vendors. Then in every vendor master record, we are assigning the reconciliation account. That is the link. Clear? Then sort key 012. Sort key 012. Cash management group A1. Cash management group A1. Write down there itself. Cash management group is also called planning group. Cash management group is also called planning group. It's mandatory that every vendor should be assigned with one planning group. This information is this information is used by the cash planning department for the purpose of arranging the funds. Look at the screen, please. Here, cash management group A1 means domestic payments, means he is a local vendor. So the cash planning department can understand that, okay, for this vendor, the payments are to be arranged in the company code local currency. Just look at this. I press the F4. See, A1 means domestic payments. A2 means foreign payments. If he is a foreign vendor, we enter A2. A3 means vendor affiliated company. So in the case of affiliated companies, there won't be actual cash inflows and outflows. Only intercompany adjustments are there. So like that, right? So for each vendor, it is mandatory to assign one planning group. Then click on next skin button. So here we are not entering all this information. In the real time, we enter all this information. How to calculate interest on vendor account balances. One second, let me go back again. See here, suppose on this vendor, if you delay the payments, he may charge interest, right? At a specific rate every time. In that case, you create one interest indicator and that interest indicator is assigned here. Then withholding tax or TDS, tax deducted at source, right? So if that vendor is exempted from the TDS, you have to enter the exemption number here and his country of withholding the tax. So all this information can be maintained in the real time. Then click on next skin button, payment terms, 0001. Go back to notes, please. Payment terms. Put heading payment terms. The payment terms are used. The payment terms are used. I'm telling you what is payment terms. The payment terms are used. Number one, to determine the due date. To determine the due date of the purchase invoice and the sales invoice in the accounts payable and the accounts receivables respectively. Number two, to calculate cash discount to be paid, to calculate cash discount to be paid and cash discount to be received. Number three, to determine the dunning date, to determine the dunning date DUNNING, to determine the dunning date in the accounts receivables. So this is the function of the payment terms. So what is dunning date we will discuss in accounts receivable, don't worry. See, simply speaking, the payment terms represent the credit period given by vendor, nothing else. So here in the vendor master record, it is necessary to maintain the payment terms. So payment terms 0001 we have given, right? Which means that within brackets, payment terms 0001 within brackets, please write down. Payment immediate. Payment immediate. Payment immediate means here this payment term was already defined in the system. This payment term was already defined in the system, and we can also define our own payment terms. How to define our own payment terms we will cover later on. See, these are the payment terms which were already defined in the system. 0001 payable immediately due net. So here, why we are entering the payment terms in the master record? Master record always contains the permanent information, right? So this vendor requires the payment always immediately. That's why we have maintained the payment terms 0001 in the master record. But sometimes, one second. Even though this vendor requires the payment always immediately, sometimes he may give some other credit period for some invoices. In that case, we can change the payment term at the time of posting the invoice itself. Clear, no? Then tolerance group blank. See, we have created some blank tolerance group, and in that blank tolerance group, you define some values, and those values are applicable here. Then select check double invoice. Regarding what?
Payment terms.
Payment terms. See here, we have entered the payment terms 0001 in the vendor master record. So the assumption, we have entered 0001, it's only an assumption, right? So why we have entered the 0001 payment terms in the master record? What is master record? Master record always contains the permanent information, right? So This vendor requires always the payment immediately. That's why we entered payment terms 0001 in the master record. Clear, Srinivas?
Yes, sir.
Now, at the time of posting the invoice to this vendor, this payment terms is automatically defaulted. So user need not enter every time because always he gives this payment terms only, right? So at the time of posting the invoice to this vendor, the system automatically defaults this payment terms in the invoice posting. But sometimes today we purchase one material. Only for this invoice, this vendor is giving 30 days credit. Only for this invoice. In that case, while posting the invoice, we can change the payment terms. Not necessary to change the payment terms in the master record. Clear?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Okay. Then select check double invoice. Select check double invoice. What is impact of this? Please write down there itself. In the material itself, please write down. By selecting this indicator, by selecting this indicator, the system verifies if any invoice is posted two times. The system verifies if any invoice is posted two times and gives the warning message by comparing the invoice number and amount of the invoice means sometimes what happens is by mistake the user may be posting the same invoice second time also by mistake. In that case, the system gives the warning message if you select this indicator. So for identifying whether the invoice is being posted second time, the system will compare two fields. One is invoice number. The other one is amount of the invoice. Okay. Click on save. It gives only warning message, not error message. Then what is this payment methods? What is this payment block? House bank, bills of exchange limit. All these things we will discuss in the upcoming classes. So this is how we create one vendor master record. One second, please. See, actually the server is looking very slow, right? I will talk to the service provider. Okay, no problem. It is bearable. Okay. But anyhow, it should be something more speed. I will talk to the provider. Yes. See, vendor 1,05,001 was created. I will tell you, Khalid. See, vendor 1,05,001 was created in the company code 3366. So, from where the system has taken this vendor number? Here, for the vendor account group 3366, we have assigned the number ranges 1,05,001 to 1,06,000. And this is the first vendor we have created in this group. So system has taken 1,05,001. So if we create one more vendor under the same group, it will take 1,05,002. Clear? Now, here, see, Khalid has posted one question. What is PO based and non-PO based invoicing? Here, generally, what happens is, uh, before purchasing the materials from any vendor, right? First, we have to raise the purchase order. So purchase order is an authorization given to the vendor to supply the materials according to the specifications made in that order. That is called purchase order. So if the vendor delivers the goods against the purchase order, and if you receive the invoice, that is called purchase order based invoicing. Clear? Sometimes, right, it's not necessary to give the vendor the purchase order. See, for example, we are using one material XYZ. Okay. So every month on 3rd, we require 100 units of this material XYZ. Again, I'm repeating. It is actually a different business scenario. We are using material XYZ and we require 100 units of this XYZ material on 3rd of every month. And there are very few vendors who can supply this material. So we have given one standing instruction to the vendor, sir, on 3rd of every month, you deliver 100 units of this material. We don't give any purchase order. This is a standing instruction. So on 3rd of every month, right, the vendor delivers the 100 units and he sends the invoice. That is called non-PO based invoice. Non-PO based invoicing. Clear? So how to post PO based invoice? That is actually will be coming from MM. In MM integration, we will see how to generate the purchase order and how to post the invoice with reference to purchase order, everything. Now, let us create one more vendor account. Same procedure. Company code 3366, account group 3366, click on enter. I am going to show you how to create one more vendor master record, but the system has become slow.
Sir,
Yeah, Gadi.
If you don't select only balances local currency checkbox, how that foreign currencies will be converted to local currency, sir?
No. And also, please
In
remember,
reconciliation account.
no. For the reconciliation account, it should not be selected. Because suppose if you take sundry creditors account, okay? If you take sundry creditors account, for the sundry creditors, it's not necessary and you should not select only balances in local currency. Because what happens is, suppose you have some foreign vendors. From the foreign vendors, right? You purchase invoice, you purchase the materials in the foreign currency. Then you post them in the foreign currency only. So, in the accounts payable, for each vendor, when you post the foreign invoice, that is converted into company code local currency. Okay. But we have to reevaluate the open items in the vendor account. So, whenever you reevaluate the open items in the vendor account, that open items are automatically converted into company code local currency, and from there it will be transferred to balance sheet. That's why it is not necessary and we should not select only balances in local currency for reconciliation accounts. Even if you try to select only balances in local currency for reconciliation accounts, it will display error message. Okay, Gadi?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Is equal to company. Name is equal to Sane and company. Country US. Click on next skin button 4 times. 1. 2, 3, 4. See, here also reconciliation account mandatory. So like that, in every vendor master record, we assign the reconciliation account. So that when we post the transactions in any vendor account, this reconciliation account is also automatically updated. Sort key 012. Cash management group A1. Click on next skin button. Payment terms 0001. Select check double invoice. Click on save. Akila, you have any questions? Okay. Anil. Okay. Chandrasekhar. Okay. Gadi. It's Gadi or Gadi? I'm sorry. How I have to pronounce you?
Yeah, Gandhi only, sir. You just have to remove N, sir. That's it.
Okay. Gadi. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then Himasailaja. Okay. Khalid.
Sir, just now we did the setting we have done. Sir, it is MM based or FI based, sir?
No, it's FI based.
FI based, okay. Because we have used the SK01 transaction code. That's why I asked.
Yes. XK01. Actually, in XK01, see, good question raised by Khalid. I told you that MM is also implemented, and when it is implemented, it is integrated with FI. So, in the real time, the vendor master record will be created by FI user and also MM end user. In that case, if the FI end user has to create the vendor master record, he goes to FK01. If the MM end user has to create the vendor master record, he goes to MK01. Because in the vendor master record, FI end user maintains the information in the company code segment. MM end user maintains the information in the purchase data segment. but the general data is maintained by both. Okay. So if you want to create the vendor master record only for company code, I mean, if you want to create the vendor master record only in FI, we use FK01. If you want to create the vendor master record only for we use MK01. But in XK01, we can maintain the information in FI, I mean, in the company code data segment, purchase data segment, and general data segment at a time. You know, in the jail master record, we have two methods. One step method, two step method, right? Here also same.
Yes.
In one step method, we maintain the information in both the segments at a time, right? Chart of account segment and company code segment. Similarly, in the vendor master record, you can maintain the information in the general data segment, company code data segment, and purchase data segment at a time. That's why here I am using XK01. Here you see
Yes, sir.
purchase organization. But what is purchase organization? I did not tell you. This purchase organization will explain you at the time of integration. Then only you can understand. Clear, Khalid?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. And vendor 1,05,02 was created in the company code 3366. Then Tafiq, you have any questions? Okay. Tejasvi? Okay. Okay, then see you tomorrow same time. Good night and good day.